Welcome to Money and Freedom, the podcast where you learn to become financially free using value investing. In this podcast, we're going to talk about, should you buy a house or should you rent? What is better? I'm going to use some examples from my own life. I moved to Portugal during the COVID lockdown. So just after the second lockdown, I moved in 2020. And I was a bit torn when I arrived to Portugal. Should I buy the first house that we moved into? Or should I rent it? Because it was actually for sale. And I really wanted to live in that house with my two boys, who at the time were 5 and 8. It was an attached row house in a condominium. It was built, the traditional way they're built in Portugal and many other places. You have all these houses, 2 stories attached around a pool. And then you have some grass, some playgrounds, some common areas. What I really liked about this condominium was that I knew some of the people who lived there. And it just had a feeling of safety and community that I really, was a good place to start. Now, the house was for sale for around, it was either 750,000 euros or 800,000, around that level. And the rent was 3,000 euros and a little bit. Let's just say 3,000 euros a month. Now, obviously, there were other things going through my mind. We had never lived in Portugal before. We came from Copenhagen. And I didn't know. My thinking when we moved to Portugal was, what can go wrong? People were like, oh, you're so brave. I can't believe you took your 2 kids and you moved to Portugal. That is so brave. But in my mind, I was thinking, these lockdowns, this first lockdown was kind of okay because it was spring and, the flowers were blossoming and we went for walks and the weather was pretty good. The second lockdown was winter, and winter in Copenhagen, you don't want to mess with that. And so we were stuck in this apartment, and that was not fun. So I was thinking, is it going to happen again? Is there going to be another lockdown? I thought, well, I don't know, but there's been 2. And next winter, there was a really tough lockdown. So I was right. There was another lockdown. And I was just thinking, I'm not doing it again. So in my mind, it was like a vacation from lockdowns and everything that I don't like about Denmark. I love my home country very much, but I do not love the winter. And the thing about winter in Copenhagen, when you have kids, you have to put them in these full-body suits. And then you send them to kindergarten. And when they come home, it's raining a lot in Denmark. So they'll be miserable and wet. And if you live in an apartment with wooden floors and they take off these wet, full-body suits, you have to wash the floor again. I was just going crazy with these kind of things. And I was thinking, I cannot do this anymore. So my thinking was, it's just like a vacation. We're going on a vacation. If we don't like it in Portugal, we can leave after a year and we will have missed out on a winter and another lockdown. What's to lose? Well, when you look at a house and you're thinking, shall I buy it or shall I rent it? Obviously, this is a really important factor that you're thinking, we haven't lived here before. We don't speak the language. I don't know if the school is good. We can leave after a year. Well, then you're already, from the onset, you are kind of leaning towards renting. But I will take you through presuming that you will stay, what does the calculation look like? I'll take you through it. And I'll take you through 2 houses. The one that we stayed in, and then we moved actually after 3 years. And we're still in Portugal. And then the second house that we're living in now. So I'll give you some examples. A little intro here to how Warren Buffett would think about this, because we are, of course, value investors. And Warren Buffett is known for taking really big decisions really quickly. There is a story about how he purchased a whole building near Washington Square in the early 1990s. And if you don't know your history lessons, the interest rate was very high at the time, and the housing prices plummeted, like really, really. They got to really low level. So he was like, I'll buy the building. He asked for about a few details and thought about it. And then he just decided to buy it. What he does is he thinks about owner earnings. So he calculates what is the income from this property minus the expenses in 10 years. So in that case of a building, it's pretty easy. It would be the rental income minus everything you need to pay for to keep this building going. Maintenance, elevator fixing, a doorman, if you need a little bit of a gardener, all these things. And what you have when you take the income minus the expenses is the earning you as an owner theoretically could put into your pocket. And he calculates how much will that be over 10 years. So if the price is lower than that amount, it's a good price. If it's higher, we'll have to talk about it. But in this case, he must have calculated that the sum that he had to pay for the building was way lower than the owner earnings for 10 years. Easy peasy. So that is how he thinks. Now we're going to look at the first house that I lived in, which was in an area in Cascais called Aldea de Xuso. So what did we have here? And how did I find all this information? Super easy. I went to AI ChatGPT and I asked, what are the costs? What are the taxes? What's the interest rate? So I basically just got a lot of help from someone more intelligent than me, or at least someone with more data than me. Okay, so let's look at it. The house, let's say, was 800,000, and I paid 3,000 per month for 3 years. Now, the thing about houses is that everybody believes, and it's been like this for decades now, that they presume that the housing prices will rise. And yes, in Portugal, there has been a housing price boom. Everything is just going up. It is crazy. So many expats are coming to Portugal. Also, you have Russians coming from the war. You have the rich Ukrainian coming to Cascais. And you have a lot of Americans who are really tired of Trump also coming. And they have a lot of money. So it has been so crazy that new political parties have emerged in Portugal just to get rid of these foreigners that are pushing the housing prices up. It has become very difficult for Portuguese people to afford the rent and buying a house. So that's basically, it's a local problem. But what happened to the price of this house? And actually, because we moved out, it was for sale again. I know what happened. So, when we talk about buying or renting, people are so prone to saying, oh, you should just buy. Housing prices will always go up, right? Well, they don't. They can fall. We knew that from the 1990s. My dad lost $1 million on a house back then. I remember he told me that. And that's how it is. So let's see. $1 million. That was 1 million kroner. We are from Denmark. Okay, let's see. So what were the costs of living there for 3 years? So that's pretty simple. You just have to take the 3,000 and time 12 times 3. What would the cost be if we had bought the house? And that's where I was very happy that ChatGPT has so much data. And then you take these two sums and you figure out, which one is the better one. Pretty easy. So let's see here. If I rented, which I did, I have spent 108 euros on this attached row house in a condominium. 108 euros. Okay. A bit more than 100 euros. What would I have spent if I had bought the house? And I can tell you right now, no, the price of the house did not go up. How do I know that? I know that it was for sale for 800,000. And I know that they put it for sale for 1.2 after 3 years. However, they did not sell it. So they put the price tag down to 1.1. However, they did not sell it. I was there. I had all the people coming, watching, looking, kicking the steps or tires or whatever you call it when it's a house. They put it down to 1 million. They did not sell it. They put it down to 900,000. They still didn't sell it. And then they took it off the market because they were not willing to go back to the old price. And today they live in it. The landlords live in it themselves. Okay, so you would not have made any money on buying and selling the house during those 3 years. For some weird reasons, even though the rest of the market went up, I think maybe he put the price a bit too high to begin with back when I moved in. Okay, so how much would I have spent if I had bought the house, stayed there 3 years, sold it again for the same price? And I can tell you, the things that I've asked ChatGPT to figure out was taxes when you buy. In Portugal, you have to pay taxes when you buy the house, and that varies depending on the price of the house and if you already have a house. So, but you can, if you want to know specifically for Portugal, you can ask ChatGPT. The annual tax, you have an annual tax as well, maintenance, and the cost when you buy and when you sell. There will be other costs like lawyers and stuff. And then the insurance of the house, and then, of course, the interest rates. Now, all of these will vary depending on where you are. So I'm not going to read the specific numbers because listening to a lot of numbers is just boring. But go to ChatGPT, figure it out there. I can tell you in this case, with my first house in Portugal, I would have spent 161 euros plus a little bit. 1,000. Did I say 1,000? 161,000 euros. Very important with 1,000. Okay, so that is obviously a little bit more than 100,000. 108,000. So it was actually a good decision to rent. And obviously there are other considerations. The feeling of not being so sure if we would stay. And things turned out about this house. I have figured out, first of all, it was really wonderful in one way because they had the best friends in the condominium. So the kids loved it, but I thought we lived a little bit too close. I had a lot of kids running in and out, which I thought sometimes I was in the mood for it. I thought it was fun, but on a Saturday morning at 7 o'clock, the other kids will knock on the door. It was like, whoa, let's calm down a little bit. The other thing is you live so close to each other, and I had a semi-attached house, so I had one wall I was sharing with another person, and I didn't know her when I moved in, but I got to know her really well. And this person did not like a lot of things. She did not like any noise. Basically, I don't think she liked children. She did not like animals, and we had a cat and a dog. So we would have continuous problems with her. She was threatening to kill a cat because it sometimes would sneak out and crawl on the roofs. One time it even entered her house, and she really, really did not like that. And then we got a dog that was even worse. She put up this, it's like, it makes a sound. It's like an alarm in her garden. And our gardens were really, really close. It would always go off. If you were at the pool, her beeping sound would go off. And it's a beeping sound that will scare away cats and dogs. It's a very, very high-pitched sound. The problem is it works on children too. So one of my children had like this constant ear pain from her beeping sound. And we had these fights with the condominium administration. Can she please remove that alarm thing that she has? It would go off if somebody, if it detected any movement. But it would go off if you were even outside her garden, if you passed by her garden. And sometimes even when we moved in our little garden. So that was not fun. Also, she didn't like the piano. My kids liked at that time playing the piano. And whenever they did, she would storm out, bang the doors, scream and yell, Portuguese swear words. I'm not sure what she was saying, but she really, really didn't like it. And they actually stopped playing the piano. I haven't been able to get them back into playing it. So that's a shame. So we stayed there for 3 years. And the other thing that happened, and that is actually, you could say, well, maybe you should have bought it. What happened was the landlord raised, after 3 years, I had a contract for 3 years, was what the rent was at 3,000. But when the contract ran out, he wanted me to pay 5,000. And I think maybe he was hoping that he could sell it for 1.2, but that didn't work out so well, and they ended up moving in themselves. So it didn't work out the way he planned it. So he was really, the landlord was looking at this house as something, an investment that he really quickly wanted to make money off. So that wasn't super fun. Actually, we would have liked to stay, and then again the problems with the neighbor and a lot of kids running in and out. Maybe we wouldn't. I don't know. What ended up happening was one of my sons moved to another school, and when I went to visit that school, which is in Carcavelos, if you're curious, it's called St. Julian's. I think it's the best school in Portugal. International school, very high standard, loving environment, impressive buildings. I remember having the feeling of entering Harry Potter when we walked around. And I said to the people showing me around, I said, I wish I'd gone to school like this. And she looked at me and she said, that's funny, all the parents say that. It's a wonderful school. And not just the school and the buildings with the school, but the surrounding. The Carcavelos beach is a really, really nice beach. And I could imagine how my son would hang out with his friends. He is turning 12, so we're not that far away from teenage years. How he would hang out at the beach with his friends. And there's some local cafes, and I could imagine how we would go watch football at the sports bar, eat a burger at the place next door, have a acai at the acai place at the square. I could just imagine his life. So what I decided when the contract on the first house ran out, I thought, we will live in this neighborhood. Whatever it takes, we will live in this neighborhood around the school so he can walk to school. You might ask, why didn't both of your kids change school? Well, they were first at a preparatory school, and, at a certain level, you have to advance to another school. And the other kid was happy at his old school, so I kept him there. So I found a house. I looked for both houses that I could buy and I could rent. And honestly, there was nothing I could buy at the time. But there was only one house for rent that was relevant. But it was 7,500 to rent it. And even though it was that much, I did contact, whoever was on the ad, and I said, we're interested in this house. And I got a negative message back saying, it's taken, sorry. And I was like, oh, no. And I was thinking, we have to have that house. We have to have that house. That was exactly the same feeling I had 3 years prior with the other house. It had to be that house. And they, as you remember, he said, no, we want to sell it. We're not renting it. And I was just imagining it in all kinds of ways that we were living in that house. So I did the same thing. I was like, that is our house. We will live in this house. I'm really sure. Why this house? Well, it is close to the school. It has an ocean view. Oh my God, it has an ocean view. It is so wonderful. And the streets around this house are closed off, and they're like 5. It's like a network of tons of little streets where you cannot drive through. So you can bicycle on the roads. It's really quiet, super nice. And there's a pool that's kind of mandatory in this area, in Cascais. There's a pool. There's a place where you can play basket. They can play some football. I mean, the house is big enough for those active boys that I have that they can play outside. That's really important. So let's look at the numbers, shall we? So the first house was, the second house, of course, I meant the second house. It was listed for 7,500. And they told me, sorry, it's taken. So what did I do? I imagine we lived there anyway. And I was like, that is our house. I'll find a way. I contacted another real estate agent that I've used before. And didn't say I want that house. I just contacted her and said, look, I really want to live close by my older son's new school. Can you help me? And she came back with exactly that house. And I said, well, she said, oh, it's a little expensive. And I said, well, let's negotiate. And I got it for 6,000 per month, which is still quite a lot. If you're Danish, that's around 45,000 to 50,000 per month. And everyone in Denmark says, that is so crazy, because that's the way we think. And in Danish kroner, that's about 500,000 a year. It's a lot. It is a lot. Now, since it's not for sale, I don't know exactly how much it would cost, but I do know that the houses in the area, they will usually cost around 3 million euro. It's a nice area, it's a nice house. That's just how it is. So how much for renting? How much for the costs? And now again, we're going to presume that the price, that the value of the house won't go up. Well, we don't know. I mean, but don't presume that it will go up. We will not take it into this equation right now. Okay, so the rent is easy. For 3 years, we're going to presume that I'm staying for 3 years again. So that's 216,000. Very hard with these numbers, huh? And what if we owned? Well, it would be more than 500,000 euros in taxes. Taxes when you buy, annual taxes, maintenance, which would include a gardener, and the poolman, which is included in my rent. So I would have to pay that myself if I owned the house. Whatever other costs you have when you sell and buy a house, the insurance, the interest rates. And how did I figure this out? Again, I went to ChatGPT. I was like, help me figure this out. And ChatGPT do. And you can do it for your area too. So these are the categories, right, that I would put in. So you can take the same categories. You can also ask ChatGPT, are there any other costs that I haven't considered? Again, there are a lot of other things to factor in. This time, I really think we found the place we want to live. But my kids are now really close to turning. When we moved into the house, they were 8 and 11. And we're so close to a really delicate age. And I was thinking, I don't know. At that point, I didn't even know if my son would like the school. Well, happily, he really, really loves the school. But I was thinking, I still don't know. Will he be happy? The older son, will he be happy in the new school? How long will we really stay? I still don't know. And that's the life of an expat. I think we will stay. We've been here now for 4 years. Wow, time is flying. 3 years in the first house, and now we've been 1 year in the new house. But it is a thing that when you're not completely sure if you're staying and how long you're staying. And first of all, it's the fact that we are expats. And secondly, it's a delicate age when they enter the teenage years, which my older son is turning 12 in a month. He will be a teenager in a year. I mean, will he all of a sudden have a crash and want to go back to Denmark? I don't think so, but still. And will he want to, when he reaches high school age, will he want to go back to Denmark? Right now, they are fluent in English. When we came to Portugal, they only knew how to speak Danish. They did not know English. And for 1 year, my oldest son didn't say a word at school because he didn't want to speak this weird language called English. And now it's the opposite situation. They are so fluent in English. They speak English together. They speak English to me, even though I speak Danish to them. And they don't know Danish anymore. I mean, the oldest one can make a decent sentence, but it kind of sounds funny. And the youngest one, he can now no longer make a sentence. He was 5. He had just turned 5 when we got here. So that's a shame. So maybe, do we really want to lose the sense of being Danish? I don't know. At some point, we might have to go back, at least for a while. So obviously, flexibility is such an important thing when you rent. So that's one really strong pro about renting, flexibility. If you change your mind, it is so much more easy than if you actually bought the house. The other thing is convenience. When you rent, I don't have to worry about the garden, because there's a gardener coming with the house. There's a poolman with the house. If he doesn't show up, I just call the agency and say, hey, something's wrong. If something breaks, I don't have to worry about it. It's their job to send a person to fix. So those were 2 pros. One more pro is the money that are not tied up in a house, you can actually invest it. And then we are here to invest money in the stock market, right? I think that's a great benefit. That's a really, really important one. So those are the 3 major benefits about renting. Now, I have to admit that I do actually have a dream of owning a house, because I do like the feeling of stability when you own your house. And for the time being, with the volatility we've had in the stock market, I have this sentence in my mind, and it is optimize for safety. Optimize for safety. I keep saying it to myself. So when I have to make a decision, I'm checking in. Does this feel like a safe choice? And this is kind of weird, because I'm a person who will do bold moves. I'll move to Portugal with my kids. I'll start a fund, I embark on crazy adventures. But I can feel that at this point, when you have such big responsibilities, raising 2 boys on your own, investing other people's money, I can feel that there is a need now for a really stable base, which would make it easier for me to handle the volatility. It's really different investing for yourself. I am super cool. If the stock drops, I'll just put more in it if it's my own money. But when you're investing for other people, it's like a whole different ball game, because you'll have other people becoming nervous and contacting you. What's going on? And what did you make that decision? So now I keep thinking, optimize for safety, optimize for stability. Like, I want the base to be really stable. And you cannot get around the fact that if you own your own house, it feels more stable. It feels like you're really grounded. So it is on my list of things I'd like to do. I would like to own my own house at some point, just not right now. That's what I had for you today. I hope it inspired you to think in a different way about owning or renting a house. I know a lot of people are really focused on owning a house, but there can be reasons why renting is better. If you like the podcast, please subscribe, like, review it on your favorite podcast site. And if you have a question, you can look me up on X or on LinkedIn. And my handle is my first name. So it's at Beile, Beile. I actually made a post about renting or buying a house. Sorry, getting distracted looking at my own beautiful X account. I made a long post about that where I put in the specific costs of owning these 2 houses. So you can look that up as well. That's it. Thank you.